All right, and then moving on to the Shellfish Advisory Board, we have 4 applicants. Yeah, so I'm gonna ask each one to come up and state why they should be the one person.
We'll start with Chip Benton.
Sure, since he's alphabetical order. You can come to the
Everybody, I'm
table.
Chip Benton. Oh, I can sit at the table?
I had a root canal today, and that's.
Okay. Just tell Mary and Dan. Okay, this doesn't matter. All right, let me get my papers here.
Is Justine recusing?
Yes.
Yeah, she doesn't feel well.
She doesn't feel well, so Justina doesn't feel well.
She had a
She should, yeah, that's what she said. Okay, so, yeah, do you wanna state why you had an interesting application, that's what I'm looking for, here it is. That, yeah, why do you wanna be on the Shellfish Advisory Board?
Well, I tell you, I've been shellfishing in this town for 45 consecutive years. I served on the Shellfish Advisory Committee board back for 15 years in the 80s and the 90s. And I've met the new shellfish warden, and I'm impressed with her energy. A lot hasn't happened to enhance the fishery at all, I think, in the last several decades. What I'm offering is my experience within the harbor. I know it extensively, I know its history. I've made a living off of it. And I mean, one of the reasons I'm doing it, I balked at it at first, but I'd been approached by several of the younger fishermen asking me to step up and try to help oversee what's going on, so
Okay,
here I am.
thank you. Any questions from the board? No comments?
Yeah, I have one question. Have you, dredged as well as, have you picked,
I've done it all.
you've done it all, you picked in the wild, you've dredged?
I've made a living here for the past 45 years in this harbor.
Yeah,
Fished
thank you.
every square inch of it, every available method.
Thank you.
okay, you can return to the audience. Any questions from the audience?
Nope. I'm a wild fisherman. I depend solely on the wild.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Mike Kubiak's up next.
Mike Kubiak. I've been fishing in Wellfleet, picking the wild for 2 years now. This is my second year. This past year I started with the drag boat, so I've been doing that. I felt that the Shellfish Advisory Board could use some diversity with someone without a grant. I felt the Shellfish Advisory Board could use someone with some diversity without a grant interest, and I'm glad to see there's other applicants without a grant as well.
Pull the mic a little closer to you.
I'm all done talking for now.
Any questions from the board?
I want to observe that Mr. Kubiak has gone to Shellfish Advisory Board committee meetings, so he has gone to quite a few of them.
I'd also like to observe that Mr. Kubiak is attended many select board meetings.
Yes, yeah. Okay, thank you. And now, David Sider, right?
Sightly.
Oh, there is an L in there, okay. Yeah, misspelled.
It's Jeremy. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So would you like to just comment on why you want to be on the board?
Yeah, I don't know. A few people asked me to,
Dave.
and
We'll close it, yeah.
I said a few people asked me to, and I don't know. I went to a couple shellfish advisory meetings, and it just seemed pretty cool. I've been doing it for, I don't know, since I was like, I don't know. I mean, I've been involved with it since I was like, I grew up here, you know. So, I mean, like I was cutting base scallops in rollerblades, you know. But I don't know. I've seen what was going down, you know, with the, you know, how the harbor was before, you know, and I know what goes on, you know, and the ins and outs of the harbor, and like I know everybody that's doing it, you know, and you know, I can work with Nancy and work with the other shellfishermen pretty well, you know. I've dragged and have a grant now. I just got that, and you know, I've done the wild for a long time. I've been a partner with somebody else on another grant for a while, and you know, I manage that when he's out scalloping, and he helps me when I was out scalloping. And I've worked in other fisheries for a long time, which has given me like kind of like a good general knowledge of, you know, how to implement other ideas into like fishing, you know, into shellfishing, like you know, like when Vibrio started and the ice thing happened, you know, like everybody was like, oh my god, ice is like, we've been icing stuff. That's what you do with shellfish. You ice shellfish, good food.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any more
Okay.
questions or?
Any questions or comments? Yes. Ms.
Comment, I've, prior to any of this, before his consideration of being on this committee, I had a number of long exchanges with Mr. Seidler about a variety of things at his behest, and was really impressed. Mr. Seidler, may I say with great respect, you're way more articulate in private. It's hard, it's very hard speaking in public for me as well as a lot of other people. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to know is how many years exactly have you been fishing commercially? Because I understand you grew up doing it, but when did you really, you know, step up and get a permit? How many years ago, please?
I don't know, like when I got my commercial shellfish permit, I think it was like 8 years ago. But I've been in other stuff probably since I was like 16, other fisheries since I was 16. So
Thank you.
that good.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And then Todd Spencer. Is he still back there? Yes, there he is.
Yes.
Good evening, I'm Todd Spencer. I'm a washer shore. I've been living here full-time for 4 years, and I've been a recreational shell fisherman for that period of time. I think I've come with a different perspective maybe. I have been fascinated with shell fishing not only for the economic benefits for this community. I understand it's probably about a $5 million enterprise, and it's essential to the employment in it's one of the economic engines of Wellfleet, as well as its part of its roots and character. I also interested in the biology of the harbor, the health of the harbor, the health of the water, and I think they're integrally interrelated, and what benefits to the fishery will also benefit the harbor and benefit the town overall. I attended a World Oyster Symposium at Woods Hole for 3 days a couple of years ago, and it was a scientific presentation on the commercial shell fishing, oysters in particular, worldwide, but emphasizing the East Coast and the West Coast, and some of the things that are being done up Cape in Mashpee, Falmouth, Virginia, New York, Maryland, which I think are really aimed at trying to optimize production of in the environment and enhance water quality. And I think bring some of the science to the committee may be a different perspective and may be helpful.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, well, it should be noted that Dr. Spencer is an internist, and therefore, as you have to have as a doctor, his attention to science and detail is deep. That wasn't English. I think you know what I'm saying. In other words, that would be very useful on that committee.
I have a lot to learn, about the day-to-day, but I think I could bring a different perspective to the committee.
Okay.
All
Kathleen?
set? No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll hear from the audience if there's any questions or advocacy. Yes, Barbara?
Barbara Austin, I'm chair of the Shellfish Advisory, and I think that we have an excellent group of applicants here. I know it's going to be extremely difficult for you guys to decide, but I just want to let you know that we are a little bit in flux, and a few of the other members are thinking about retiring. So if anyone is not chosen, whoever's not chosen tonight, I would just like to tell them to please stay informed, please keep coming to meetings, and that the opportunity may arise sooner than they think for another chance. Thank you.
Well, I'll just start off saying that you guys are all great applicants. Yeah. Who wants to consider being on another board or committee? I mean, we have 4 applicants and 1 alternate position. So I would love it if somebody would just step aside and say, I'll be on the, what committee do we want? We have every committee. Who wants to be on the planning board?
Janet,
What? Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
I know the water commissioners, Jim came over to my house this afternoon and we had a long conversation. And I know they want to spread out some and see who's going to do what. But I noticed that Mr. Spencer is asking if he doesn't get on this board that he's interested on the Board of Water Commissioners.
Yes.
And I think he would make a very good applicant when
He
they
has
get their
applied.
act together and,
Yeah.
and come forward. So I would eliminate him personally. I think he's great. Don't get me wrong, Mr. Spencer. But I think eventually, in the near future, we're going to need someone on the Board of Water Commissioners, and I think your experience would be most helpful. So that's where I'm coming from.
Anyone else?
Well, I was hoping he would want to go on the Conservation Commission, but that's another subject. So this is what we do. We cruise people for boards and committees. It's our job. So I just want to say, same thing Barbara Austin said, 4 incredible applicants. But I want to validate also and confirm, as a person who goes to shellfish committees, what the chair of the shellfish committee said. They have one person who almost said, I can't do this anymore, who's on the NRIB at the last meeting. And whoever we appoint tonight, there is, I bet money, going to be another position open. I know the chair already said it, but I'm confirming it. So just to hear from the rest of us about this, I know who I think I'm going to move to approve, but I want to hear from everybody.
Okay, anyone else? Any comments? So I would entertain a motion for a nomination.
I move to approve Dave Seitler as an alternate member for the Shellfish Committee, with a term ending 3 years from now, which would be, help me somebody please,
June 30th, 2021.
June 30th, 2021.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Any seconds? That's what we gotta look for first. Any seconds?
No.
Okay. So hearing no seconds, may I have another motion?
I move to approve Michael Kubiak.
Any second? It's gonna be tough. Uh,
I have one more
I have,
question.
No, wait,
It
there's
is your
no,
turn.
what?
I'm,
Are you
I'm going
seconding
to,
it? Are you seconding
no,
Catherine's
no,
motion?
you
Okay.
didn't get a second.
All right, so hearing no second, I'll entertain another motion.
Madam Chairwoman, I move Chip Benton. I think that,
Yeah, this is.
Chip
yeah.
is out, it's been here for 45 years out in the wild, and I think you could use someone who's been fishing in the wild for all these years. And I don't know if there's anyone, Helen could tell me, or Nancy certainly could tell me, that if any member of the Shellfish Advisory Board now is a wild fisherman. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We have a
Ms. Wilson.
motion, and now do we get to discuss? Or did we get a second?
Did we get did we second, we didn't get a second for Mr. Benton. Any second for Mr. Benton? I'm not gonna be the
I
deciding
have a
vote.
question.
Okay, so, yes,
This is important.
Okay.
This may be a decider.
okay,
So remember, I used to be on the Shellfish Committee for years and years, and I sit in. And I have a question for both Mr. Benton and Dave Seitler. Right? And the question is this: do you have drafting and computer skills? Because frankly, no. Your experience is the most important thing in the shellfishing industry. But the working of that group, and one of the members that may come off is a person who is the major drafter, who can write a letter and bring it to the committee for approval. And this is the kind of work they have to do pretty regularly. And I'd like to ask both those candidates what their experience with that is, because of my opinion, my experience as to what the needs of the committee are. So may I ask through you, Mr. Benton, if he has any computer or any ability to draft and bring, like to draft letters, business letters, and so forth and so on. Okay, and good people, that's true of many good people. I'm not faulting you. I'd like to ask through you, Mr. Seitler, the same question. Can you draft, can you?
you gotta use, we have to use a microphone for the audience at home.
I could probably do it.
Could you take minutes?
I don't know what minutes are.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, but Mr. Howe had a question first, so come to the microphone.
Well,
yeah.
if that's going to be one of Helen's criteria, I would say that if you look at Mr. Kubiak, is that how you say
Kubiak.
it? He has a BS in criminal justice and a BA in psychology. And so it would seem to me
Get on another
that if
board.
you're looking for somebody to do that, but why would you have to have somebody on the shellfish? Isn't there anyone else on that board that can write a letter?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Through you?
Mr. I just forgot your name. It's a long night.
Hi, my name is Brett Morris.
That's
I'm
right,
a member of the Shellfish Advisory Committee. I would beg you to reconsider Dave Seitler for the Shellfish Advisory Board. Incredibly intelligent, incredibly smart, young, energetic, full of ideas. You won't find a better person to sit on that committee. And I've come to know him over the years, and I've been completely impressed with this guy's ability.
Okay, thank you.
Like a genius. I'm not kidding you. It's like, and going into the
I
future
hear you, yeah.
of
I respect
shellfishing,
your opinion, yeah.
going into the future of shellfishing, he's a young man. He knows the wild, and he wants to make the wild fishing better, and he knows how to do it. Believe me.
Okay,
All right.
good, thank you. Any other advocacies? All right, any other questions? or comments?
Well, I would like to nominate Dave Seidler
Okay.
again, or move to appoint him.
Any second?
I'll second it for conversation.
Okay. Any conversation? Okay. Hearing none, may I have a vote? May I have a favor, all in favor of Mr. Seitler, since he got a second?
Well, I just wanna go back and read his,
Okay, we can take a moment. Do you have it? I've got it right here.
I have it.
Give this
but
to Jerry.
Here, Jerry.
So whoever the runner-up is, or whatever, I'm serious, we really need people on other committees, and you'll be very good, because you go to all the selectmen's meetings, so. I
Yeah.
actually thought you were gonna run, so, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so. Do I have a reason to be afraid? No, but seriously, it's, whatever the outcome of this vote,
So we have
committees are so much fun. Yes.
What do we,
We had a first and a second
for
Mr. Seitler,
Mr. Seidler,
so I'm asking for any other comments or asking for the vote.
let's have the vote.
Okay, all in favor? Okay,
and I urge the other applicants to go to meetings, and to keep going to meetings, and to keep your ears open when somebody on the board decides to step off.
yeah,
Please.
we'll have the Shellfish Advisory Board contact you two if somebody else steps off.
I
So-
would just have a comment, knowing that Mr. Seitler, now knowing of his brilliance and his genius capabilities, we
Yeah.
expect a lot from you, so.
Okay, hard decision. You're great candidates. And I will second what Jerry said about Dr. Spencer, is that we're saving you for the Water Commission. if
Or
it
the
comes.
conscom,
Or the conscom.
or
Okay.
something else, anything else.
Conscom would be really good.
Yeah, no,
Okay, moving on.